Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're zeroing in on Bitfarms, a player in the cryptocurrency mining arena. You've shared a comprehensive due diligence report, some recent news articles, and stock analysis, all dated around May 2025. Our aim is to really pull out the crucial insights and understand what truly matters about Bitfarms right now.
Yeah, we've got quite a bit here. Financials, their operations, the industry context, management stuff, valuation risks, and what's been happening lately. So let's try and break it all down.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the financial picture. Recent revenue hit approximately $54.4 million. That was a slight beat on estimates, but, and this is critical, you have to remember, revenue in this sector is just so tied to Bitcoin's price swings. We don't really see a clear multi-year growth trend in these sources.
Right, and what's notable there is even with revenue slightly up, that lack of consistent long-term growth.
Yeah.
It really just highlights how much their top line depends on, well, one volatile crypto asset.
Exactly. And profitability, it isn't there. Earnings per share came in negative, minus $0.04 for the latest quarter. It met expectations, okay, but still indicates a loss. And that sustained lack of profit, even when it hits the forecast, it just underlines the ongoing struggle for miners like them to consistently make money.
Indeed. The price-to-earnings ratio is also negative, around minus 3.46, which just clearly signifies the company isn't profitable right now. That's quite a contrast to many other industries, isn't it?
It really is. And if you think about the implications, a negative PE for a business needing huge capital investment like mining, well, it can signal investor concerns about future earnings potential, maybe even the basic sustainability of the model in the current market. Good point. Now, we don't have specific figures for debt to equity or free cash flow right here in these documents, though, you typically find those in their SEC filings or investor relations materials if you wanted that deeper dive. Return on equity is also probably under pressure given the net losses we're seeing. So let's pivot a bit. What does Bitfarms actually do and how do they compete?
Well, they call themselves a global energy and compute infrastructure company, but their main thing is mining Bitcoin. Their perceived edge, or what they aim for, is running really energy-efficient mining facilities. They're shooting for cost leadership through smart power use, reportedly around 19 watts per terahash. And they do have considerable scale.
That energy efficiency focus sounds crucial, especially when electricity costs can just eat into mining profits. They mentioned about 461 megawatts of energized capacity, so that's definitely a substantial operation.
It is. But it's important to recognize, while that efficiency is a strength, they're up against some much larger players. Like Marathon Digital Holdings, Riot Blockchain. Bitfarms is more of a challenger trying to carve out its space.
Okay, looking bigger picture then, what's the state of the crypto mining industry right now? What are the main challenges these companies face?
Well, the whole sector is facing more regulatory scrutiny, pretty much globally. That's one thing. And then, of course, the massive volatility of Bitcoin's price. That directly hits their revenues, constantly. Plus, the tech is always changing. More efficient mining hardware keeps coming out.
So it's this constant juggle, upgrading gear, navigating those wild price swings. Must be tough.
Absolutely. And if you connect that to the risks, you're talking potential rule changes that hike up costs, shifts in electricity prices, squeezing margins, and always the chance of supply chain problems getting that essential new hardware.
Right. Now let's get into management and governance, because this section seems to raise some pretty significant concerns. While we don't have details on CEO tenure here, these material errors found in their 2022 and 2023 financials, that's troubling.
This is where it gets really significant, yeah? Something investors really need to pause on. Having to restate financial reports because of miscalculations, specifically how they accounted for digital asset sales and warrant redemptions, that's serious. It can really damage investor confidence in the numbers they're putting out.
Absolutely. And it doesn't stop there. There's an ongoing securities investigation and a class action lawsuit alleging potential securities fraud tied to these very accounting errors. That sounds like a major risk hanging over them.
Oh, the legal fallout here. You really can't understate it. This is a major risk factor. It could seriously hurt their stock performance, no matter how efficient their mining ops are. The potential for big financial penalties, not to mention the reputational damage, it's very real.
Okay, shifting to valuation and other risk indicators. We don't have a price-to-book ratio handy here, but again, that's something you'd find in their filings. They also don't currently pay dividends, which, well, that's not totally unusual for growth-focused companies in this kind of sector.
And given the crypto market swings, their beta, the measure of stock volatility against the market's likely quite high. But the main risk being flagged by all this, clearly the ongoing investigation and potential legal liabilities.
So let's look at some recent developments. What's been happening lately? They're set to release their Q1 2025 financial results on May 14th. That'll be a critical update, won't it?
Yeah, and what's particularly interesting about that release is it covers the period after those accounting errors were found. So investors will be watching very closely, looking for signs of better internal controls, maybe a return to more reliable reporting.
They're also out and about participating in several investor and industry conferences in May 2025. Sometimes that increased visibility can give investor sentiment a bit of a boost.
True. Being at events like Consensus or the AIM Summit gives management a chance to explain their strategy, maybe address concerns, possibly attract new investment. But, those ongoing legal questions, they'll likely be a hot topic there too.
And they recently got a new debt facility up to $300 million with Macquarie Group. This is interesting. It's to fund their high-performance computing, or HPC, project development, moving into a different computing area.
Right. That suggests maybe a strategy to diversify revenues, move beyond just relying on Bitcoin mining, could offer more stability down the road. But it also raises questions. Could this new focus distract them from fixing the issues in their core business?
Good point. So despite those potentially positive steps, the conferences, the new funding, you're right, those unresolved legal issues and the past restatements, they're definitely casting a long shadow, probably adding to the stock price volatility.
It really paints a complex picture for anyone looking at this company. You've got potential growth paths, new money coming in, but it's all happening alongside these really significant unresolved governance and legal problems.
How about social sentiment, market reaction? We don't have specific social media data here, but it seems reasonable to assume news about investigations has probably made investors pretty cautious, right?
Highly likely, yeah. News about securities probes and lawsuits. That usually cools enthusiasm, leads to more scrutiny of everything the company says and does.
And their recent stock price moves could be a mix of things, upcoming earnings, conferences, the new debt, but it feels like those legal troubles are just this heavy weight sitting on the price.
Probably. Those legal uncertainties likely put a kind of ceiling on how much any good news can lift the stock, at least until there's much more clarity on how those investigations turn out.
So how does Bitfarms actually stack up against competitors, say Marathon Digital or Riot?
Well, compared to those bigger guys, Bitfarms looks like more of a mid-tier player. Their distinct angle seems to be that energy efficiency focus in mining, plus this recent expansion into the U.S. market. But while their competitors also deal with all the crypto market craziness, Bitfarms is kind of unique right now with these very public, significant legal investigations hanging over them.
Okay, so looking ahead then, what should you, the listener, really be paying close attention to?
That upcoming earnings release on May 14th is definitely number one. Look beyond just the basic numbers. Listen for any comments from management about the legal stuff, what steps they're taking to fix the past accounting problems, how those legal issues progress and eventually get resolved. That's going to be huge for their stock. And of course, just the background noise. Bitcoin's price swings, any new regulations hitting the mining industry, those will always be key for their profitability.
Right. So to wrap it all up, Bitfarms is, well, it's an interesting company. You've got a business model focused on efficient Bitcoin mining. They're moving into new areas like HPC. And it's but those significant past financial restatements and the ongoing legal challenges, they present very considerable risks. Risks that you, whether you're an investor or just curious about this space, should be really aware of. Their upcoming earnings report is definitely going to be one to watch for updates.
Yeah, what's quite telling here is how a company in such a cutting-edge field like crypto mining can get so tripped up by really fundamental accounting practices and legal problems. It kind of raises that important question, doesn't it? About the balance between pushing innovation and just having solid, stable operations.
We hope this is giving you a clearer picture of Bitfarms based on the information you shared with us. There's certainly more to watch, especially after that next earnings release comes out. If you found this analysis helpful, please do subscribe, like, and maybe leave us a comment. We always appreciate hearing your feedback.